There's a conflict being waged right now, not with armies, but with elements. It's a silent, strategic battle unfolding in the crushing darkness of the deep sea, all over microscopic particles that dictate the balance of power in the world above. And it really all starts with a single, pretty startling number: 9,200 pounds. Think about that. That's the weight of a unique class of metals hidden deep inside just one U.S. Virginia-class nuclear submarine. It's the invisible force that makes it a ghost in the water. You know, silent, lethal, and technologically supreme. And the struggle to control this force is pushing humanity toward its very last unexplored frontier. Welcome to Insight History HD. Together, we will peel back the layers of narratives long locked away in the archives of history. To really understand this new global fault line, we have to first get a handle on the almost magical properties of a group of 17 metals. They are, in a very real sense, the hidden ingredient in our modern age, and they're the cornerstone of military dominance. They're called rare earth elements, or REEs. Now, as the report beneath the surface points out, their name is a bit of a misnomer. They aren't actually that rare. But, and this is the key, they are incredibly difficult to find in concentrated, economically viable ores, and even harder to purify. This difficulty creates a natural choke point, a vulnerability that's been leveraged into a profound strategic weapon. Their power creates this direct, unassailable chain of consequence. You see, the unique atomic structure of elements like neodymium allows for permanent magnets of unrivaled strength. This incredible strength lets engineers build smaller, lighter, and way more powerful components. I'm talking about things like actuators, the tiny muscles that move fins and lenses, as well as motors and sensors. These components, in turn, are what enable the hyper-advanced systems for guidance, propulsion, and stealth that define modern warfare. It's a true butterfly effect, where atomic properties create a decisive technological advantage. But all of this technological supremacy, well, it rests on a very fragile foundation. An overwhelming dependence on a single source has transformed a simple industrial supply chain into a critical national security vulnerability. And the scale of this dependence is just staggering. According to the document 6 Military Uses of Rare Elements, the F-35 fighter jet requires over 900 pounds of these materials. An Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, that contains 5,200 pounds. And that Virginia-class submarine from our opening, it needs nearly 5 tons. I mean, these are not trivial amounts. They are absolutely foundational to the very function of America's most advanced military platforms. And here it is. This is the core of the problem. One nation, China, controls an estimated 97% of rare earth production and up to 90% of the manufacturing of the high-powered magnets that come from them. It's as if one country held the patent, owned the factory, and had all the raw materials for the engine that powers the entire world's military and technological infrastructure. And this leverage is far from just theoretical. As it's detailed in the analysis, A New Frontier, it has already been used. Back in 2010, after a territorial dispute, China restricted rare earth exports to Japan. That sent a shockwave through global markets and proved that this supply chain was, in fact, a leash. This stark reality has kicked off a pretty desperate search for alternatives, a geopolitical scramble that's now moving from the halls of government to the most remote and hostile environment on our planet. To break those chains of dependence, the world's major powers are looking down, way down, into the abyss. The deep seabed, thousands of meters beneath the waves, is now seen as the new strategic high ground, a vast, untapped repository of the very minerals that are defining the 21st century. But, you know, this frontier isn't empty. It's one of the most mysterious, biodiverse, and fragile ecosystems on the entire planet. It's a world of crushing pressure and eternal darkness, and it's inhabited by life forms we are only just beginning to discover, creatures that have evolved in total isolation for millennia. Scientists are warning that the consequences of mining this realm could be catastrophic and, frankly, irreversible. It's not just the physical destruction of habitats, which would cause a permanent loss of biodiversity. You've got sediment plumes that could drift for miles, smothering all life in their path. And as one study from the Deep Sea Conservation Coalition notes, the noise from just a single mining operation could impact marine mammals over 500 kilometers away, disrupting an entire ocean soundscape. And so the battle lines are drawn. A new global conflict has emerged, and it's pitting the drive for resource security against urgent calls for environmental preservation,
all of it playing out in a fractured and pretty much untested international legal system. So back in 1982, the United Nations declared the seabed the common heritage of mankind. But then in 2010, China's export restrictions turned these minerals into a weapon. Now the conflict is accelerating. A recent US executive order is signaling a potential push for American companies to just start mining international waters. And that has prompted a coalition of over 40 nations to call for a global moratorium, basically a pause on this undersea gold rush before it ever really begins.
So, the world is now split. On one side, you have a mining bloc, the United States, China, Russia, and others, and they're driven by this urgent need for resource security and geopolitical advantage. On the other side, there's a moratorium alliance, France, Germany, Canada, Pacific Island nations, and they're arguing for the precautionary principle, for science and protection to come before any exploitation. This schism has completely paralyzed the international body that was created to prevent this very conflict. And it leaves two fundamental questions just hanging over the future of our oceans. Who owns the abyss? And who has the right to profit from it, or the duty to protect it? At the heart of this entire debate is a single profound philosophical principle, one that is now being tested by the pressures of 21st century geopolitics. As it's outlined in the paper Geopolitical Implications of Deep Seabed Mineral Resource Competition, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea wrote this very idea into international law, the common heritage of mankind. The concept was that the deep ocean floor belongs to no single nation, but to all of humanity, both present and future. You know, it was a radical idea, a real attempt to prevent a colonial-style rush on the last frontier. It was never meant to be a starting gun for a race to the bottom. It was supposed to be a solemn promise of shared stewardship for the benefit of all, a promise that is now on the very verge of being broken. What happens next down there in the cold and silent depths will be a defining moment, because the decision we make in the crushing dark of the abyss, well, that will ultimately reflect the character of our civilization in the light of day. If this journey has offered you a new perspective, support our exploration by subscribing to Insight History HD. Thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next narrative.